Okay, is this working all right? Can everybody hear me in here? Sweet. Okay, thanks. I look around the room and I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you all for being here. For those that don't know me yet, I don't know how to use a clicker. There we go. For those that don't know me yet, my name is Brett Christie. For those that I've already had the pleasure of meeting, my name is still Brett Christie, so do with that what you want. But thank you for laughing in the front here, Rhett. I appreciate that. But I've got really bad jokes, so stick with us or just go get some dessert in the other room if you don't like those. But I'm with Sophos. I'm a senior solutions engineer. And for those that haven't worked with us, we're one of the largest providers of managed detection and response services globally with over 30,000 customers. As part of that, we deal with 1,000 or 2,000 cyber criminals a day, right? We're working with a lot of them, working against them, trying to protect our organizations. So today, I thought it'd be a little bit more fun, instead of talking about some really cool solutions and buzzwords and other things, to talk about why cyber criminals are in business. To talk about why the levers of supply and demand allow them to take advantage of us, allow them to do the things like Special Agent Booth told us about with all these ransomware attacks and other things that are going on right now. So I want to make it explicitly clear, though, I'm going to be talking about how to get away with cybercrime and what they're doing. We're not going to be building rootkits or Trojans or committing bank frauds today. If you came for that, feel free to call that number that Agent Booth put up earlier. Just turn yourself in. Makes it a lot easier for all of us, because at the end of the day, I'm not a hacker. Right? That's not what we're here for. But speaking of that, though, does anyone want a giant pile of money today? Anybody? I like it. Me too, right? Like, that would be great. That would be great. Honesty, that's good. What would we do? Just these next few questions, think about to yourselves, all right? No raises of hands, just in case the Secret Service is watching. But if anyone would want $1 million or $1 billion, what would you do for that, right? Would you maybe follow Dave Ramsey, put 8% into 401k for 60 years? That's pretty miraculous. You can make some good money doing that. Work a job, break the law, rob a bank. Would you put someone's life at risk by taking down a hospital system while they're on the surgical table? Let me introduce you to a man that said yes to all of those questions. This gentleman, for lack of a better word here, is Maxim Yakubets. I do apologize. Does anyone here говорит по-русски? Da. Okay. I don't speak Russian, but if you can help me with these names, Tyler, did I say that right? Is it Yakubets? Close enough? Thank you. Sprisky. I don't speak Russian, so sorry if I butcher these bad. But Maxim, he was born in 1987. For those history buffs out here, does anyone remember when the Berlin Wall, does anyone remember when the Berlin Wall fell? I think there's plenty of, awesome things that happened. But what that left is, in the wake of the Soviet Union, there was a lot of chaos, right? Lots of uncertainty, lots of, I think it was 2,500% inflation, right? Lots of jobs lost. It was a crazy time before and after. But for Maxim, he's an entrepreneur. So he sees these as opportunities. So he gets together with a group of equally ambitious and morally ambiguous, maybe not so ambiguous, right? I think we know where they fall, of malware creators and brokers, businessmen, and things of that nature. And this guy, he's not shy about it. Fun fact, he actually owns a custom Lamborghini, and that Lamborghini has thief written as the license plate. So could you imagine driving past, well, I guess it would probably drive past you on I-15, unless any of you have a faster car. I don't drive a Prius, so you can leave now as well. I don't know. But anyway, can you imagine that driving past you? Like, that's very bold. Now, actually seen here in this picture, depending on where you're looking, he gets pulled over. They get his car. Does anyone know what happened? Has anyone heard of this at all? Maybe. They almost caught him, and then he ran somewhere. Okay, a few more of you are awake. Thank you. Thank you, Hillman. I appreciate it. So That's a fake story. He was lining those officials' pockets. That was probably a photo op from that last picture, but he was not arrested at that time. So let's get back to the timeline at hand here. So in 2011, he and these associates, they start the business club. They run it like a startup, so it's scrappy. They put in equity, sweat equity, coding skills, business acumen like we talked about. A lot of them came from a group that was building a banking Trojan called Zeus, that some of you might have heard of. Zeus was being used to do web injections, steal information from forms, make it so they could commit bank fraud, right? They decide that they're not going to use Zeus, so instead they use Game Over Zeus, which is just, I don't know if they injected it with some more lightning or something, but it was a P2P version that made it so they could also add on ransomware, like CryptoLocker and things like that. Using these systems, some of you might have heard, but in 2012, they hacked a Pittsburgh oil company, and they took $3.5 million. So that giant pile of money was just starting to accumulate that we're talking about. And that starts making it more and more attractive, right? That increases the demand. They get more friends involved. Instead of them going out and getting Series C funding, they just do another ransomware attack, and someone pays it. They just do another bank fraud attack, and they steal that money. That's how they're kept in business. So in 2014, business was going well. I don't know, maybe Jakubetz was saying, thief on my license plate isn't big enough. I want Evil Core on a polo or a hat. I don't know what the tax code write-offs are in Russia, frankly. But they decide to rebrand themselves as Evil Core, just to make it very explicitly clear what they're doing, right? And Evil Core, they come up with a new modular banking Trojan. You might see a pattern here, right? Bigger and better. They're releasing new things every year, just like any business, called Drydex. And Drydex made it even easier to evade antivirus, to brute force RDPs, to get deeper and deeper into organizations like ours, here in Utah, in this area, to be able to get in and ransomware more important data, right? So they start going after higher targets. They start going after more critical infrastructure, enterprises. Excuse me. Even nation states. They started stealing secrets from neighboring countries of Russia, like Turkey and Ukraine, on weapons movements and giving these to the FSB. Now, as part of that, maybe, Jake, I love that presentation. I don't know where you are, but that was great. Maybe they read the book about Never Eat Alone, but they started finding out what the FSB wants, so they start getting protection from the FSB back, right? They're building that reciprocity. But again, I'm getting a little out of order here, so what we're talking about today is how to get away with cybercrime. So first step is you want to live in a country with no extradition policy or treaty or arrangement of any kind with wherever you're going to be hacking. Like Moscow. I took this picture last week from the internet, so I hear it's a really nice place this time of year, but really great. But it makes it easier for them to commit crimes in the US, the UK, the EU, places where they're not going to, like Agent Booth mentioned earlier about that awesome op that went and grabbed people from Nigeria to do that. We can't exactly do that in Russia, right? That'd be a statement of war. So it makes it a lot easier for them to get penalized for what they're doing. Take it one step further. You want to get, quite literally, in bed with the right people, right? So you can marry in to the FSB. Does anyone know who this gentleman is? Seen here, super excited at the $300,000 wedding he was paying for? It's the father of the bride. I'll give you a hint. It is not Steve Martin. It is, I guess no one saw that movie. That's okay. Edward Bendersky, yes. So he's a high-ranking FSB official, part of VIMPL, which is the Black Ops unit. So think the guys that storm embassies, commit assassinations, just come in the middle of the night that you don't see coming, right? He helps lead that group. So Jakubetz, the leader of Evil Core, he marries into that family, gains even enhanced protections. Right? FSB? It's kind of like the FBI in Russia, right? So, but also aspects of the CIA, they do all that kind of stuff, right? For Russia. Great question. Thank you, sir. Yeah, good double check. But Now, one of the guys on Bendersky's team is this guy, a Russian assassin, seen here giving his best, tell me that one more time and see what happens face, right? Is Vadim Krasikov. Now, Krasikov was arrested in 2019 for committing an assassination in broad daylight, but he was released in a prison transfer just last year, and he had been a former bodyguard to Putin. Does anyone know who this guy is on the screen now? That's Putin. Yep, okay, good. That one was a little easier, hopefully. But that one even I knew before I started doing this presentation. So he was a former bodyguard to Putin. He walks right off the plane from the prison transfer, and what looks like out of a Hawkeye comic book. I mean, that is a pretty nice Russian tracksuit he's got going on. But that just shows you the level of loyalty that Russia is giving to people that play for Russia, right? And Evil Corps is only 1 or 2 steps away from these relationships. They're being very protected. As part of all of this, and these geopolitical things happening in the world, the US realizes that, hey, we can't just treat these kind of cyber criminals like we do any other kind of criminal. This is now a national security issue. So in 2019, they levy heavy sanctions against Evil Corps. So they make it illegal for anyone to do business with Evil Corps, to pay ransoms to Evil Corps, to pay them any kind of money. They freeze all their US-based assets. They even put a $5 million reward on Yakubits for capture. So let's take that back to that pile of money. If anyone wants $5 million, there's a way, right? So Moscow, again, beautiful this time of year. Good luck out there. I don't speak Russian, so I can't help you. But this is a pivotal point, ladies and gentlemen, in how we're dealing with cybercrime here in the US. So instead of just going after a person, we're starting to choke the infrastructure, the money. But Evil Corps is a business at the end of the day. So their revenue stream starts going down, starts decreasing. So they're trying to figure out, how can we get more money? They're pulling a Grant Cardone. They're like, where's my money, right? As part of that, they decide that they need to pivot and start working with some other people. So in 2022, they become an affiliate of Lockbit. That one, I'm sure there's more people that have heard of that one today. Is that more people? Yes, I'm seeing some nods. Perfect. So Lockbit, for those that haven't heard of it before, is a ransomware as a service group. So they offer triple extortion, which was new at the time, where they would encrypt your data, they would exfiltrate that data, so help you take it out of the environment of wherever you're hacking, and then they help you to leverage that data that you have to get the person to pay the ransom. So sometimes they would do name and shame tactics, where they're going to start telling your customers that you got hacked. Maybe they'll release it to the media, short your stocks, do anything that they need to do to get that ransom back. Maybe they'll still short your stocks after they get the ransom back, right? There's not a guarantee on that. So Lockbit builds this whole business around this. They're also in Russia. They have 24/7 support with over 20 different languages. So people can call in, get help in evading antivirus and deploying their systems. And they've got a full partner process here with affiliates, right? They have 194 affiliates in their prime in 2022. They're using them. But Evil Corps becomes their largest partner that year, which from a business standpoint was fairly brilliant of them, because with sanctions, right, that we talked about before, they couldn't do business with any US or really Western-based entities. But now, as a partner, they're selling Lockbit, and other people are doing the ransoms, other people are getting the money back, and they're just cashing a check at the end of the day. So with this, good and bad, they're sitting on a giant pile of Bitcoin. Theoretical cyber pile of Bitcoin. Maybe they got a Bitcoin wallet in their pocket. I don't know. But they're sitting on it. But as we all know, mo money, mo problems. Yes, thank you. Mo money, mo problems. So they've got all this Bitcoin in around 2022 timeframe that they're making. But what are they going to do with it? Contrary to Netflix and what we might see, there are still some ways that we can trace some of these funds, right? If you get a ransom for 10 million in Bitcoin and then someone cashes that in the same day, it starts raising some flags, right? There's ways around it. So they still have to be smart with it. And as part of being smart with it, enter a broker. So this is Ekaterina Zanadova. She's a Russian socialite. She hangs out at nightclubs with actors, pop stars. She's been in magazines in Russia. She may or may not have been the impetus for the White Widow from Mission Impossible. I don't know. I could see it. But she is the head of SMART, which was a multinational laundering corporation that would take money, move it through assets, through shell companies, and just clean it up for them. So as part of that, back to this gentleman, Maxim Yakubets, he gets connected into Ekaterina's web. So he and his team at EvilCore have a ton of Bitcoin, right? Lots of crypto that they need to convert to cash. So she filters that through her hotels and businesses and exchanges it with the mafia. This is like the Irish mafia that we're connected to her chain, with FSB, where they're going to pay for safe houses and buying people out and state secrets. Cartels, right, in South America and other things. It's like straight out of a movie. This is crazy stuff. But they move all this money. So cartels, fairly cash-based business. I don't know. I don't work for a cartel, I guess. But often, lots of cash going on. And so they move that into crypto. They move that into hotels, into other assets, creating this web. Because again, today we're talking about how to get away with cybercrime. Just like we're trying to do to prevent cybercrime, we're stronger together. A lot of criminals have found the same thing, unfortunately, that if they pair up, they can be stronger together. Now, that said, we started picking up on that too. So last year, the US, the UK, Australia, other NATO allies really levied some heavy sanctions against EvilCore, Lockbit, Ekaterina, and her associates at SMART to choke off this revenue stream once and for all, because we are, in fact, stronger together, right? We can do more together to prevent cybercrime. So as part of this, they launched two operations. Operation Kronos, which was meant to go after EvilCore. Yeah, we've had some people hear that. And Operation Destabilize, which goes after the money. That's straight infrastructure. Take out the money, and then that demand goes away, right? Because they're in this for the money. That's why cyber criminals are doing it. We want to do things for various reasons, but we're all employed IT professionals, so to some extent, we're doing it for the money too, and the right reasons, hopefully. But as part of these operations, they take out this money. They sanction 17 members of EvilCore as part of these so that they can't cash out on any of their assets, crypto, cash, or otherwise. They sanction their entities. They arrest members of Lockbit. They arrest members of SMART and other organizations. And they found 170 shell companies. They found Bitcoin wallets hidden in baby strollers. That's crazy. Baby strollers. They found Bitcoin wallets, 9 million of Bitcoin wallets. So after this, I'll be rushing to DI. So if anyone else wants to check, I don't know, there might be something there. But this wasn't quite game over. Does anyone want to guess what happened to Maxim Yakubets after this last year? Guesses? Yes, he ran somewhere. Thank you. You got it. You're paying attention in the back. Thank you, sir. So no, unfortunately, he was not imprisoned. He was sanctioned, right? Which is a good step in the right direction, but it's not game over. Along with him and EvilCore, while they're being sanctioned, there were these 194 Lockbit affiliates that are looking for a home. 194 people that had successfully used it to ransomware organizations like ours here in Utah, right? Like here in our neighborhoods, like state and local governments, hospitals. All these organizations trying to get a piece of the pie to get those easy scores that ransomware is seen as over there. You might recognize some of these names here of current ransomware providers. One of the biggest ones we've been tracking lately at Sophos is called DragonForce. DragonForce works very similarly to Lockbit, more of a cartel as a service model with decentralized coalition. So they share resources with their affiliates. They share team members. So someone that doesn't have a background in technology doesn't necessarily need one, because they can just click a few buttons, make a few calls, maybe eat lunch with the right person in Moscow, and they'll make this happen. Now that said, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about thieves, we've been talking about dragons, but this isn't a scary bedtime story, all right? At Sophos, we envision a world where every organization, no matter your size, your means, your location, has the ability to access tools and resources and team members that you need to effect superior cybersecurity outcomes. We are not alone, ladies and gentlemen. Cybersecurity is a team sport. We all partner together. While yes, we may compete in business sometimes here and there, we are all in it together against these cyber criminals. We need, to echo what Agent Booth said earlier in that excellent keynote, we need to play with those levers of supply and demand to remove the demand. When we make it so easy for people to make money off ransomwaring us by not patching, by not securing, by just giving in to ransoms, it makes them come back and want more, right? So that starts with all of us affecting change day by day as we're doing. So please, ladies and gentlemen, stand with us. Let's defeat cyber attacks together so that next year we can say people like Jakubets ran nowhere instead of ran somewhere. But thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.